I sneaked into a wealthy woman's house to steal some money, but broke down in her mansion that was like a garbage dump. As a thief with six-pack abs and a cleanliness obsession, I couldn't help but clean her house all afternoon, left a note scolding her for being messy, and took 1,895 yuan as hard work fee. But the moment I picked up my noodle bowl at a small restaurant, the police grabbed me by the shoulders. Who knew Ye Zhiqiu not only signed a letter of understanding on the spot, but also invited me to dinner and shopping every day afterward, always rushing to pay the bill. Until that glass of red wine slid down my throat and I opened my eyes the next morning, I finally realized I had long become her captive. My name is Zhang Wei. I make a living by lockpicking, but I've never used this skill for anything good. Helplessly, my old mother back home needs constant medicine, and my meager monthly income can't even fill the bottomless pit of the hospital. When you're pushed to the edge, how can you afford to care about dignity? This time, I targeted a high-end apartment complex in the west of the city, room 1704. The owner's name was Ye Zhiqiu. She was beautiful, with skin like cream and picturesque features. Just the name carried a cool, unworldly air. I staked her out for 2 full weeks. Her schedule was as regular as clockwork, 9 to 5, a standard office worker. This kind of prey had low risk after the job, practically tailor-made for me. Today was the day. I followed her to the entrance hall, watched her graceful figure turn into the underground garage, waited a full 10 minutes to be sure she wouldn't come back, then pulled down my hat and leisurely made my way upstairs. The tools slid smoothly into the lock. My wrist gave a few little flicks, and with a soft click, the door opened. I slipped inside, closed the door behind me, a smooth sequence. The next second, a strange mix of leftover food stench, sour laundry smell, and some lingering perfume hit me in the face. I froze at the entrance, almost thinking I'd picked the wrong lock, and stumbled into a garbage transfer station. I know many young people have messy homes, but this level of chaos, I, Zhang Wei, who prides himself on having seen the world, had never encountered it in all my years. The sofa was piled high with clothes. Impossible to tell which were clean and which were dirty. On the coffee table, takeout boxes teetered precariously, with uneaten food still inside, even grown mold. The floor was completely cluttered with cosmetic bottles, jars, and ripped open delivery boxes. I even suspected she never walked on the floor at home, only floated through the air. Could this really be the home of the ethereal Ye Zhiqiu? Where was the fairy aura? Had it been corroded by the air in this room? My professional ethics were instantly drowned by a strong physical revulsion. The germaphobe in me couldn't tolerate such filth. A wave of anger surged inside me. What a nice house, north-south Tongto, exquisitely decorated, and she had turned it into a pigsty. Fine, stealing could wait. I couldn't even find a clean spot to put my foot down to steal anything. Word of this would be a disgrace to my profession. I put my tool bag by the door, rolled up my sleeves, and got to work. I worked until 4:30 p.m. I, Zhang Wei, a decent-looking guy with six-pack abs from hard work, a male thief, was sweating like a dog in Ye Zhiqiu's mansion, working as an unpaid cleaner, clearing trash, wiping tables, mopping floors, sorting those expensive-looking clothes into categories, hanging what needed hanging, setting aside what needed dry cleaning. The dishes in the kitchen sink had merely developed their own ecosystem. On the bathroom counter, cosmetic bottles were scattered everywhere. As I worked, I cursed under my breath. This was more exhausting than picking 10 locks. When I finally tied the last garbage bag, dusk had fallen outside. Looking at the now sparkling living room, floor so clean you could see your reflection, everything neatly organized, the air filled with the faint lemon scent of detergent, I let out a long breath. A ridiculous sense of accomplishment washed over me. I was exhausted, truly exhausted. I went into her bedroom to look for something valuable. The bedside table drawer had some loose cash and jewelry. I rummaged through and found not much cash, 1,895 yuan in total. Clutching the money, I finally felt a little balanced. All right, consider this my hard work fee, even if it wasn't nearly enough for the labor. I found a piece of paper and wrote her a note in what I considered pretty handsome handwriting. This home of yours, look what you've done to it. Even I, a thief, can't stand it. I started cleaning when you left for work, and just finished. I'm exhausted. Take the loose change in the drawer as my payment. If you really don't have time in the future, remember to hire a cleaner. I put the note on the coffee table, pocketed the 1,895 yuan, grabbed my tool bag, and left the battlefield where I'd fought all day, completely worn out. Ye Zhiqiu dragged her aching body to her front door. Work had been especially hectic today. She felt completely drained. Her only thought was to kick off her heels and bury herself in the pile of clothes on the sofa. She inserted the key, turned it gently, and with a soft click, the door opened. The familiar mix of day-old takeout and perfume didn't hit her as expected. Instead, a fresh, cool lemon scent greeted her. Her foot stopped midair. She instinctively pulled back, looked up to check the apartment number. 1704. Right. This was her den. No, her treasure abode. She cautiously leaned half her body in, her eyes widening. The floor, once swallowed by clutter, was now so clean she could clearly see her own stunned reflection. The mountain of clothes on the sofa had vanished, revealing the sofa's original textured fabric. The coffee table. Oh my god. She'd almost forgotten it was made of transparent glass. Tiptoeing like Grudge Liu entering the Grandview garden, she moved in fearfully, afraid to soil this clean land. She whispered in amazement. Everything she saw was tidy, orderly. She rushed into the bedroom. The once messy bed was made perfectly flat. Even the folds in the duvet looked deliberately designed. Trembling, she opened the closet. The clothes were hung meticulously by color and season. Even her cartoon print panties and lacy lingerie were neatly folded in special compartments, smelling of sunlight and laundry detergent. She gasped, covered her cheeks, feeling a hot flush rush from her feet to her head. The kitchen was even more incredible. The stove was spotless. The range hood's shiny surface reflected her stunned, slightly cute face. The mountain of dishes in the sink was gone. The drying rack was clean. Was this the doing of a rice goddess, or some lovesick young man at work? Just as her brain was about to overload, her eyes landed on a sticky note on the pristine coffee table. She walked over, picked it up. The handwriting was actually quite handsome. What have you done to this nice home of yours? Even I, a thief, can't stand it. I started cleaning when you left for work, and just finished. I'm exhausted. Take the loose change in the drawer as my payment. If you really don't have time in the future, remember to hire a cleaner. A thief? Ye Zhiqiu snapped back to reality, rushed to the bedroom, and pulled open the bedside drawer. The loose change was indeed gone. A chill ran from her feet to her head. A thief had been in her home. But what was wrong with this thief? He hadn't touched the expensive electronics, only taken less than 2,000 yuan in cash, and then given her home a deep clean from every angle, even leaving a thoughtful note. Was it just her, or did this plot seem off? She suddenly remembered the tiny camera hidden in the living room's greenery. She quickly pulled out her phone to review the footage. Fast-forwarding. In the video, a tall, well-built man skillfully picked her lock shortly after she'd left. Her heart tightened. But then, the man's reaction was exactly like hers had been. He was clearly stunned. The camera even captured a flash of bewilderment and an indescribable look of collapse on his face. Then came the absurd part. Instead of immediately ransacking the place, he stood there, with his hands on his hips, sizing up her pigsty, looking like he was psyching himself up. Then, as if making a decision, he put his bag by the door and began a live broadcast of what could only be called a miracle of housekeeping. Clearing garbage, wiping tables, mopping floors, sorting clothes. His movements were clean, efficient, and meticulous. When she saw the man frowning, but still carefully hand-washing her lacy lingerie and other small items, Ye Zhiqiu's cheeks flushed, all the way to her ears. So embarrassing. And yet, watching that stranger's sweaty figure on screen, sometimes showing disgust at stubborn stains, sometimes showing a slight smile when conquering a hard-to-clean spot, she couldn't help but find it amusing, and a strange ripple stirred in her heart. The way he focused on cleaning, his side profile sharp and defined, the outline of his muscles visible in his movements, especially when he bent down and his abs were faintly visible. Stop it. What are you thinking? He's a thief. The footage ended with the man pocketing the money and leaving. Ye Zhiqiu hugged her phone, fell back onto the sofa, her heart beating out of rhythm. It was as if a handsome, fit, oddly principled man had crashed into her world in the most bizarre way possible. The more she thought about it, the hotter her face got. The more she replayed it, the faster her heartbeat raced. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, her slender fingers trembling slightly. She picked up her phone, unlocked the screen, and said in a voice tinged with sheepishness and hidden excitement, "Hello, 110? I'd like to report a crime. My home was visited by a very strange thief. After I left Ye Zhiqiu's place, night had already fallen. I wandered to a food street, the 1,000 plus yuan in my pocket feeling heavy. Not because of the money, but because I felt lousy inside. This job was a complete loss. If word got out, my peers would laugh their teeth out. Exhausted and hungry, my legs took me to old Chen's noodle shop on the corner. Boss, a bowl of beef noodles with extra meat and an egg. I slapped the money on the greasy counter, my voice weak from a day of cleaning. Old Chen replied familiarly, "Sure thing, Zhang Wei. You look really tired today." I grunted in reply, found a corner seat, and slumped down. The smell of bone broth and the lively street atmosphere made me feel like I'd returned to the real world from Ye Zhiqiu's battlefield. The noodles came quickly. I picked up my chopsticks, stirred, blew on them and was about to eat, when suddenly, several uniformed police officers rushed in. "Freeze, police!" Before I could react, my arms were twisted behind my back. With a cold click, handcuffs tightened around my wrists. The noodle I had in my mouth fell back into the bowl, splashing oil. The other diners stared in shock. My mind went blank. Getting caught in this line of work was inevitable, but why so soon? A camera. There must have been a hidden camera in Ye Zhiqiu's place. Damn it. I was so focused on cleaning I forgot the most basic professional instinct. Name? A young officer asked sternly. Zhang Wei, I mumbled, my face burning with shame. Not because I was caught, but because of how ridiculous the arrest was. Are you the one who broke into Yu Jingwan apartment 1704 this afternoon? The officer continued. Yes, that's me. No point in denying it. The camera probably caught everything. I was stuffed into a police car outside the noodle shop. Through the window, I saw the pointing crowd and old Chen's expression of shock and pity. I was finished, completely finished. Burglary, even if the amount wasn't huge, was enough to land me in serious trouble. And my mother was waiting for money at the hospital. What a failure. Sitting in the blindingly bright interrogation room, I confessed everything. How I'd picked the lock, how I was stunned by what I saw, how I'd inexplicably started cleaning, how I took the 1,895 yuan as payment, and the note. The officer taking my statement had a hard time keeping a straight face. He clearly wanted to laugh. Zhang Wei, does this count as you doing a good deed during a burglary, or helping someone in need? He asked. I replied with a bitter face. Officer, I admit it. I just couldn't stand the mess. I didn't touch the expensive stuff. It's all here. I'll return every cent. I'll accept whatever punishment. After the procedure, I was held in a detention cell, lying on the hard bunk, staring at the ceiling, my mind churning. The next morning, a guard came. Zhang Wei, come out. I figured it was another interrogation, and followed head down. To my surprise in the visitation room, besides the uniformed officers, there stood a woman. Ye Zhiqiu was dressed in a light blue outfit today, her long black hair falling softly. She stood next to an officer, looking nervous, but also oddly excited. Zhang Wei, right? An older officer began. After our investigation and discussion with Ms. Ye Zhiqiu, we have a few things to explain to you. I held my breath. First, according to local regulations, the threshold for criminal filing in theft cases is usually set at 2,000 yuan. The cash you took that day, Ms. Ye has confirmed the total was 1,895 yuan. That amount hasn't reached the filing threshold. Ye, after fully understanding the situation, has proactively submitted a written statement of understanding, indicating she will not pursue any action against you. I looked up in disbelief. Ye Zhiqiu happened to glance at me at the same time. Our eyes met, and she quickly looked away like a startled deer, a blush spreading across her fair cheeks. Your actions, the officer continued, do constitute illegal trespassing and theft intent. However, given the unusual circumstances of your actions, and considering it's your first offense, your sincere attitude, the amount not meeting the threshold, and the victim's full understanding, we have decided not to pursue criminal charges. Not filing charges? I was free? The huge relief left me dizzy. However, the officer's tone turned serious. Illegal entry is still a violation of the law. Given the unusual nature of your actions, and the potential disturbance to social order, we have decided to impose 11 days of administrative detention for legal education. Reflect on this and walk the straight path in the future. 15 days of detention versus a potential prison sentence. This was like getting off easy. I accept. I'll reflect. Thank you, officers, I said hurriedly. As I was being let out, I paused by Ye Zhiqiu. Miss Ye, thank you, I said awkwardly, not knowing what expression to make. Stealing but getting a non-prosecution and 15 days of free board and lodging. Truly unique. Ye Zhiqiu looked up, the blush still on her cheeks. Actually, I should thank you, she whispered. You cleaned my home so well. It's never been that tidy. Her voice got quieter. The officer coughed, and I moved on, my emotions a mess. 15 days of detention passed quickly. I spent my time reflecting. I was done with illegal paths. I needed a legitimate job, for my mother's sake. The moment I walked out of the detention center, the sun was blinding. I took a deep breath of free air, ready to start a new chapter. But as I turned the corner, a white Porsche glided up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing Ye Zhiqiu's delicate, blushing face. Zhang Wei, you're out. I froze. What was she doing here? Miss Ye, is there something? Isn't the case over? She bit her lower lip, as if mustering courage. To celebrate your freedom, let me treat you to a meal. As thanks for helping me clean. My eyes widened. The victim inviting the perpetrator to dinner? Miss Ye, that's not really appropriate. Let the past go. I've already given the letter of understanding. Just say yes. Her tone was somewhat demanding, but her eyes were full of hope. I nodded, almost involuntarily. All right. I sat in the passenger seat, uncomfortable. The car smelled of lemons, like her home. She seemed tense too, gripping the wheel. She pulled up at a high-end private kitchen restaurant. The atmosphere was elegant. She ordered generously. When the food came, I couldn't taste it. Why are you helping me? Why this dinner? I asked. She blushed. At first I was angry and scared, but after watching the footage, I thought you were so strange, not really a bad guy. What thief spends a whole day cleaning and leaves an educational note? The faces you made scrubbing stains, and the way you looked so serious and disgusted folding my underwear. It was so funny. My face burned. She'd watched all that. I was having a compulsion, I started, but she smiled. I know, that's why I think you're special. She added food to my bowl. And I looked into you. I know your mother is in the hospital, and you need money. I've already prepaid some of her medical bills. Don't worry about it. What? I was stunned. No, I can't take that. We don't even know each other. And She leaned closer, her perfume enveloping me. I said it's a loan, not a gift. You can pay me back slowly. How? I asked. But she was so close. Easy. You can clean my house as payment. 1,000 yuan per session. I've watched your work, and I'm very satisfied. 1,000 per session was way above market rate. And the way she said it, the closeness, her gaze, it didn't sound like just cleaning. My heart pounded. I swallowed hard. The air felt electric. What exactly do you mean? I asked. She leaned back, swirled her wine glass. Just what I said, but her eyes stayed locked on me. After that thank you dinner, a strange thread connected us. Every few days, her message would arrive. My place is a mess again. Come clean. Followed by a transfer of 1,000 yuan. I told myself it was work, repaying a debt, but each time I opened door 1704 and faced the still messy room, I felt uneasy. What was I? A personal cleaner, or some kind of toy? Sometimes, she was home, curled on the sofa with her laptop. Her gaze would follow me, not like a supervisor, but like admiration. It made me nervous. One time, I was fighting stubborn grease on the stove. She shuffled over in slippers. Zhang Wei, do you only clean? I'm hungry. I'm sick of takeout. Then learn to cook, I said without looking up. I don't know how, she whined. You're so handy, you should cook. Something about her tone got to me. I washed my hands, opened her fridge. It was stocked. What do you want? I asked, putting on an apron. Anything, you decide. I made 3 dishes and a soup. Braised ribs, steamed sea bass, garlic broccoli, and tomato egg drop soup. Simple, but well executed. She took one bite of the ribs, and her eyes turned into crescents. Zhang Wei, this is amazing. She ate ravenously, praising me. Watching her enjoy it, my reluctance faded, replaced by a little pride. After that, she asked me to come over more often, focusing less on cleaning, and more on cooking. Then one day, Zhang Wei, I want to discuss something. You're great at cleaning, and you cook exactly what I like. I need someone reliable. Instead of this, why not become my live-in housekeeper? Full-time. Live-in? Yes, 10,000 a month, room and board included. And your mother's medical bills? I'll cover everything until she recovers. You can't refuse, right? I couldn't. I packed a bag and moved into Ye Zhiqiu's guest room. But from the moment I moved in, a new kind of torture began, and the source was Ye Zhiqiu herself. She let herself go completely around me. She wore sheer silk nightgowns as standard. Her figure was stunning. She was like a wild rose, and I was just the housekeeper. I reminded myself, she's your employer. She pays for your mom's bills. Don't get any ideas. I did my best to be blind. She walked by in something skimpy. I looked down and wiped the table. She bent over. I studied the stove flame. But she seemed determined to test my limits. One weekend she changed and said, Zhang Wei, come with me, movie. At the theater when the eerie music started, I realized, a horror movie. She flinched at every jump scare. Within 20 minutes, she'd moved from her seat to mine, her arm pressed against mine. You okay? I asked. Fine, she said, but her voice trembled, just cold. Then a particularly gruesome scene. She yelped and buried her face in my chest. Her warmth, her scent, my body went rigid. If you're scared, don't watch, I said. No, can't waste tickets, she mumbled against my chest, not moving. She spent the rest of the movie in my arms. I became a human body pillow, afraid to move. I didn't watch a single scene. I was fully focused on her. After the movie, she sprang away from me, her face bright red. Late that night, there was a knock on my bedroom door. Zhang Wei, are you asleep? Her voice was timid. I opened the door. She wore that nearly transparent silk nightgown, a thin robe over it, hugging a pillow, barefoot, her eyes red-rimmed like a frightened rabbit. I'm scared. The movie images keep playing in my head. I can't sleep. Could I make a bed on your floor? Looking at her pitiful state and her practically non-existent outfit, my temples throbbed. You take the bed, I'll take the floor. But, no arguments. I was already pulling out bedding. You're the boss. She watched me set up the floor. Thank you, she whispered, then climbed onto my bed. I turned off the main light, left a dim lamp, lay down facing away from her, and closed my eyes tight. Good night, Zhang Wei, she said from the bed. Good night. The room fell silent. Eventually, I fell asleep. I dreamed I was a kid, hugging my old cat, warm, furry, purring. I tightened my arms around it, feeling safe. After that night, the line between us blurred. On weekends, she often asked me out. Art galleries, she wore tight dresses and leaned close. Luxury stores, she'd ask from behind the fitting room curtain, does this look good? And I learned more about her. A rich girl. Her father had died. Her mother traveled. She'd bought a stake in a company and worked a simple admin job to pass the time. Why didn't you just hire a professional cleaner? I finally asked. With your background, it would be easy. Why me? She was arranging lilies I'd just bought. Outsiders aren't as thoughtful as you. The smile was self-deprecating. She didn't really answer. My birthday came. I almost forgot it, but my mother sent a text. Ye Zhiqiu insisted we go out all day, a tech expo I'd wanted to see, lunch at a revolving restaurant, an arcade. She was terrible at shooting games, but laughed with abandon. At sunset, my arms full of shopping bags, she asked, "What do you want for dinner?" My treat. "Let's go home, I'll cook," I said. We bought groceries and went back to 1704. I cooked. She sat on a stool watching me, for once not on her sofa. The kitchen was warm and peaceful. When dinner was ready, she opened an expensive-looking red wine. "Happy birthday," she said, pouring. "But there's one more thing. Your present." She made me sit on the couch and close my eyes. I heard her go to her bedroom, then the door close. After a long moment, "You can open them." I opened my eyes, my breath stopped. She had changed into a breathtakingly beautiful traditional Chinese hanfu, a floor-length water blue dress with delicate embroidery. Her long hair was styled elegantly, with a few strands falling by her cheeks. She looked like a fairy from an ancient painting. "Happy birthday," she said softly. "I'll dance for you." The ancient music played. She moved gracefully, sleeves flowing. The dance wasn't technically perfect, but her devotion, her emotion, the way she looked at me, it was overwhelming. She spun, her hair and dress flying. She turned, her eyes full of stars, and my stunned reflection. Fine wine, beautiful woman dancing just for me. All identities dissolved. I, Zhang Wei, felt like an emperor, and this empress's gaze rested only on me. The dance ended. She stood there, cheeks flushed, a little breathless. "Do you like it?" she asked. "I like it very much," I said, my voice hoarse. Her eyes lit up. "Then let's eat. Let's taste the chef's cooking." We ate and talked, the mood light. She kept refilling my wine. I can usually drink a lot, but tonight, after just a few glasses, a strange, strong drunkenness hit me. My head grew heavy. Her face looked soft, unreal. A fire burned inside me. "Zhang Wei, are you drunk?" she asked, leaning closer. I looked at her eyes. The shyness and anticipation were gone, replaced by a sly, deepening satisfaction. She looked like a cat who'd caught a fish. "Something's wrong with the wine." The thought flashed through my brain, but it was too late. Weakness spread through my limbs. "You," I managed. Then the world spun. My last blurred vision. She stood up, her face a mix of shyness and triumph, her hands going to her waist, untying the hanfu's sash. She leaned over me, her cool fingers on my hot forehead, her lips near my ear. Then darkness. I woke to blinding sunlight, my head pounding, strange ceiling, unfamiliar soft bedding, not my room. I turned my head sharply. Ye Zhiqiu lay beside me, sleeping soundly, her black hair spread on the pillow. The blanket had slipped to her waist, revealing bare shoulders and collarbone. My brain exploded. Fragments of last night flooded back. Her dance, the strange drunkenness, her untying her sash, and, in the dark, hot, She stirred, opened her eyes. Seeing my shocked, panicked gaze, she blushed, pulled the blanket up to her chin, only her watery eyes peeking out. She blinked at me, her expression shy, flustered, and with a hint of slyness. "Zhang Wei," she said softly, "from the day you cleaned my house, I decided I wanted you, for life." I stared at her, my mouth hanging open. My brain, still foggy from whatever she put in that wine, struggled to process her words. You drugged me." She bit her lower lip, not denying it. "Just a little something to help you relax. You're always so tense." "Relax? You?" I started to sit up, but the room spun, and I fell back against the pillow. She reached out and placed a cool hand on my forehead. "Don't try to move too fast. The effects will wear off soon." Her eyes held mine, that mix of shyness and triumph, still there. "I had to make sure you wouldn't run away again." "Run away? I'm your housekeeper." "Exactly. And now, maybe something more." She propped herself up on one elbow, the blanket slipping dangerously. "You said you liked my dance. You liked having dinner with me. You liked holding me at the movies. That's not— I mean, yes, but," I sputtered, "and you definitely didn't seem to mind sharing a bed last night." A small, almost wicked smile curved her lips. I closed my eyes, willing my heartbeat to slow down. "Ye Zhiqiu, this is insane. You can't just drug someone and then— "And then what?" she interrupted softly. "Spend the night with them? You were very gentle, Zhang Wei. Even in your sleep, you held me like you meant it." My eyes snapped open. "I don't remember anything." "I know. That's a shame." She sighed dramatically. "But I remember everything." I turned my head away from her, staring at the ceiling. My mind was a hurricane. This woman, my employer, the victim of my burglary, the woman paying for my mother's medical bills, had drugged me and apparently seduced me. And I had no memory of any of it, but my body felt different. Heavy, yes, but also warm. Like after a long, deep sleep. "What exactly happened last night?" I asked, my voice flat. "I'll supervise." I groaned. But I was smiling. She slipped out of bed, pulling on a silk robe, and headed toward the kitchen. I lay there for a long moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to sort through the chaos in my head. She had drugged me. She had taken advantage of me. I should be angry, I should be furious, but I wasn't. I was instead terrified to admit that maybe, just maybe, I didn't completely hate what had happened. Later that morning, after I'd made us both breakfast, and she'd supervised by sitting on the counter, swinging her legs and stealing bites off my plate, she grew more serious. Zhang Wei, I need to tell you something. I set down my coffee cup. What is it? She looked down at her hands. The money I put toward your mother's medical bills, I didn't do it just to be nice. I figured as much. She glanced up at me surprised. You did? You're not exactly subtle, Ye Zhiqiu. You've been trying to get me into your bed since the day I got out of detention. Her cheeks flushed. That's not, yes, but, she took a breath. I did it because I wanted you to feel like you owed me, so you wouldn't leave, so you'd have to stay.